the story of Elisha, the prophet, in the Bible. Welcome to this inspiring journey through the life of Elisha, one of the greatest prophets in the Bible. His story is a remarkable testimony of God's power, faithfulness, mercy, and willingness to work through those who completely surrender to Him. Elisha's ministry demonstrated that the God of Israel is living, sovereign, and actively involved in the lives of His people. Through miracles, wisdom, courage, and unwavering faith, Elisha became a shining example of obedience to God and a powerful witness to His glory. The story of Elisha begins while the prophet Elijah was faithfully serving the Lord during a time when Israel had turned away from God. The Lord instructed Elijah to appoint Elisha, the son of Shaphat, as his successor. Elisha was found plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, faithfully carrying out his daily responsibilities. When Elijah threw his cloak over him, Elisha immediately understood the meaning of this prophetic act. He asked permission to say farewell to his family before following God's calling. He sacrificed his oxen, burned his farming equipment, prepared a feast for the people, and then left everything behind to become Elijah's servant. His actions revealed complete commitment to God's purpose. For years, Elisha faithfully served Elijah, learning from his example and witnessing God's mighty works. As the time approached for Elijah to be taken into heaven, Elisha refused to leave his master's side. Together they traveled from Gilgal to Bethel, then to Jericho, and finally to the Jordan River. At every stage, Elijah encouraged Elisha to remain behind, yet Elisha firmly declared that he would never leave him. His perseverance reflected his deep desire to continue the work God had begun. When they reached the Jordan River, Elijah struck the water with his rolled-up cloak, and the river parted, so they crossed on dry ground. After crossing, Elijah asked Elisha what he desired before they were separated. Elisha requested a double portion of Elijah's spirit. This was not a request for personal greatness, but for the spiritual strength necessary to continue God's work. Elijah replied that this difficult request would be granted if Elisha witnessed his departure. Soon a chariot of fire with horses of fire appeared and separated the two men. Elijah was taken up into heaven in a whirlwind, and Elisha saw everything exactly as Elijah had said. Grieving the departure of his beloved teacher, Elisha picked up Elijah's fallen cloak. Returning to the Jordan River, he struck the water and declared, "Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" Immediately the waters divided, proving that God's power had not departed, but was now working through His faithful servant. The sons of the prophets recognized that the Spirit of God rested upon Elisha. Although they searched unsuccessfully for Elijah, Elisha already knew that God had taken him away. His prophetic ministry had officially begun, and it would become one of the most miraculous ministries recorded in the Old Testament. One of Elisha's first miracles took place in Jericho, where the city's water supply was polluted and the land was unproductive. The people appealed to Elisha for help. Following God's instruction, Elisha threw salt into the spring and declared that the Lord had healed the water. From that day onward, the water became pure, demonstrating that God is able to bring restoration where people see only hopelessness. As Elisha continued his ministry, he faithfully proclaimed God's truth throughout Israel despite widespread idolatry and spiritual rebellion. Kings, soldiers, ordinary families, widows, farmers, and foreigners all experienced the impact of God's power through His servant. Elisha consistently directed people's attention away from himself and toward the Lord, reminding everyone that every miracle originated from God's authority alone. His life teaches believers that true greatness comes through humble obedience. Elisha never sought fame or personal glory. Instead, he devoted himself entirely to serving God and helping others. His unwavering faith encouraged God's people during difficult times and revealed that the Lord always remains faithful to those who trust Him. At this stage, if this video is interesting, take a moment to engage with it by liking, commenting, and sharing it. After Elisha's ministry was firmly established, many extraordinary miracles followed. During a severe financial crisis, a widow whose husband had served among the prophets faced the loss of her 2 sons as payment for debt. She cried out to Elisha for help. He instructed her to borrow many empty jars from her neighbors and pour the little oil she possessed into them. Miraculously, the oil continued flowing until every container was full. She sold the oil, paid her debts, and supported her family. This miracle revealed God's compassion for those who trust Him even in desperate circumstances. Another well-known event involved a wealthy woman from Shunammite who regularly welcomed Elisha into her home. Because of her kindness, God blessed her with a son despite her advanced age. Years later, the child suddenly died. Refusing to surrender to despair, the woman hurried to find Elisha. The prophet came to her house, prayed earnestly to the Lord, and stretched himself upon the child. By God's mighty power, the boy returned to life. The grateful mother received her son again, proving that nothing is impossible for the Lord. During a time of famine, poisonous gourds were accidentally added to a pot of stew prepared for the sons of the prophets. Elisha threw flour into the pot, and God removed the danger so everyone could eat safely. On another occasion, 20 loaves of barley bread were brought to him. Although the food seemed insufficient, Elisha declared God's promise that everyone would eat and have some left over. The people ate until they were satisfied, and food remained, exactly as the Lord had spoken. One of the most famous accounts in Elisha's ministry concerns Naaman, the commander of the Syrian army. Although he was a successful military leader, he suffered from leprosy. A young Israelite servant girl told Naaman about the prophet in Samaria. Naaman traveled to Israel expecting an impressive ceremony, but Elisha simply instructed him to wash 7 times in the Jordan River. At first, Naaman became angry because the instructions seemed too simple. However, after listening to the wise advice of his servants, he obeyed. Immediately his flesh became clean like that of a young child. Naaman returned, praising the God of Israel, recognizing that there is no God in all the earth except the Lord. Elisha also protected Israel by revealing enemy plans before they could be carried out. When the king of Syria attempted to capture him, an army surrounded the city where Elisha was staying. His servant became terrified, but Elisha prayed that God would open the servant's eyes. Suddenly he saw the mountain filled with horses and chariots of fire surrounding Elisha. The Lord's heavenly army was far greater than the enemy. God then struck the invading soldiers with blindness, and Elisha led them safely into Samaria before showing them mercy. This event reminds believers that God's unseen protection surrounds His faithful people. Even after Elisha's death, God's power continued to testify through him. The Bible records that a dead man was hastily placed into Elisha's tomb. As soon as the body touched Elisha's bones, the man came back to life and stood on his feet. This final miracle emphasized that the God whom Elisha faithfully served remains the source of life and resurrection. The story of Elisha encourages every believer to trust God completely, obey His voice, and remain faithful regardless of circumstances. His ministry demonstrates that God cares for individuals, families, nations, and everyone who sincerely calls upon Him. Through Elisha's life we see God's mercy, justice, provision, protection, healing, and limitless power. The same faithful God who worked through Elisha continues to accomplish His perfect purposes according to His will, reminding us that nothing is too difficult for Him. Now, finally, before you leave, if this video is valuable, do not forget to engage with it by liking, commenting, and sharing it. Endeavor to watch my other videos also to learn more. Goodbye until my next videos.